Okay, I have it as 6 p.m.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 26th, 6 p.m. June 26, 2024. I would like to call to order this annual organizational meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District. We do have a quorum present, both combined in-person attendees and several of us are attending via Zoom. The board meeting packet went out to everybody by email earlier in the week, and we have, hopefully we have that in front of us. Looking at the agenda, the first item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Are there any requests for additions or changes to the agenda of the organizational meeting?
No.
I am seeing nobody raise their hand via Zoom, and I take it nobody in person, so the agenda will be followed as presented in the packet. Second item on the agenda is a public comment period. Are there any members of the public present, either in person or via Zoom, who would like to address the Board of Commissioners at this organizational meeting? I am seeing none via Zoom. I don't know if there's anybody via phone. Is there anybody in the meeting room who wishes to address us? I'm hearing none, therefore I'll close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda is introduction of new board members and appreciation for those previously serving. I had introduced last month, and I'll reintroduce several new board members. Lauren Morlino, our commissioner from Colchester, welcoming Barb Winter as our commissioner, and Guthrie Smith, as our commissioner and alternate from Huntington. And tonight we will also welcome Matt Kobzik. I think hopefully I've gotten your name pronounced right, Matt, the new alternate from Burlington. We're very glad to have you representing the large city of Burlington and backing up Lee Perry. Also want to again thank our retiring board members, Liz Hamlin-Boltz, who has stepped down as our commissioner from Colchester, and Roman Livak and Landell Cochran, who were commissioners and alternates serving Huntington for many years, although not present at meetings in the past several years. If we could just briefly, for the benefit of the new board members, I think it might be good for continuing commissioners and alternates who are present, just to very briefly go around the room and identify yourself by name and town and whether you're a commissioner or the alternate. We don't always do that. We know who the new people are. The new people don't always know who we are and what the towns are that we represent. Let me start with those of us on Zoom. I can call you out, and then we could go to the meeting room, and somebody there can just take the lead and go around clockwise. So I'll start off on Zoom. I'm Paul Roos. I represent Underhill, and I'm currently the chair of the Board of Commissioners until we have an election for a new chair in a couple of minutes, and perhaps I'll be continuing after that. And I am the commissioner, again, from Underhill. Next, I see on Zoom, Henry, could you introduce yourself in your town?
Name is Henry Bonges. I'm the commissioner from Milton.
Thank you, Henry. Ken?
Hey, I'm Ken Spencer. Welcome, you guys. I'm the commissioner from Charlotte.
Very good. Dan Steinbauer.
I'm Dan Steinbauer. I am the alternate from Underhill.
Thanks, Dan. Leslie, I see you're next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Nolte, the commissioner from Jericho. I have been serving on the Finance Committee.
Thanks, Leslie. Then Margie. And you're muted, Margie.
Sorry. Hello, I am the commissioner from Shelburne.
Thanks very much, Margie. Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel Kennedy. I'm the alternate from Winooski.
Thanks very much, Rachel. That's those are everybody that I see on Zoom. So perhaps somebody can kick it off in the meeting room.
Rick, let's start down that end.
Rick McCraw, commissioner from Heinsberg. Happy that I don't have to remember to unmute myself.
Lee Perry, Commissioner for the City of Burlington.
Alan Nye, Commissioner from Essex, used to represent Essex and Essex Junction, but now that we have a city, they have their own representative.
Brent Oakley, Commissioner from Winooski.
Paul Stabler, Commissioner from South Burlington.
Allison Lazarus, the alternate for South Burlington.
Oh, and I'm Lauren Morlino. I'm the new commissioner for Colchester.
Barb Winters, new from Huntington.
Not new to CSWD though.
It sounds like that is that everybody in the meeting room?
Everybody in the room, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you all again and welcome. And I hope we all get to know each other even better as this year progresses. Moving on, we're now going to begin the meat of the annual organizational meeting, which begins on page 4 of the meeting packet. First step is election of officers. Sarah, I don't know, do you want to, I think your instructions were clear, but if you could kick this off and lead us through the first of the elections and the process.
Certainly. So the first thing that we would do is we would seek additional nominations for each position in turn, beginning with the chair. As indicated in the memo, there is one nomination for the chair so far, and that is Paul Roos from Underhill. Are there any additional nominations for the position of chair of the Board of Commissioners? Is there a motion to close the nomination?
Move that we close.
Second.
So then
I guess it's been, well, I'm still chair, I guess, up until this moment that we have the election. So I can say it's been moved and seconded to close nominations. We have one nominee, that is Paul Roos from Underhill. If we are ready then for the question, all those in favor of voting for Paul Roos as chair for the coming year, chair of the Board of Commissioners, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Say nay and raise your hand. Any abstentions? I then declare Paul Roos the chair for the coming year of the Board of Commissioners for the Chittenden Solid Waste District. Thank you very much for your votes. And I hope I'll continue to do the best possible job that I can leading this group in these meetings. Next position is vice chair. We have one I believe it was a self-nomination, Alan Nye from the town of Essex. Alan has served previously as vice chair for many years. Are there any additional self-nominations or nominations from the floor for the position of vice chair? I am hearing none and I am seeing none. So entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Wilson.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to close nominations for the position of vice chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Close. And we're closing
Kelton
nominations.
Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we will move to, I think I'm doing this right, vote on the vice chair. We have one nominee, Alan Nye from the town of Essex. All those in favor of voting for Alan, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Aye. Kelton Wilson.
Any opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Any abstentions?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan. I declare that Alan Nye has won the vote for the position of vice chair of the Board of Commissioners for the Chittenden Solid Waste District for the coming year. Thank you very much, Alan. Next position is position of secretary for newer board members. Our charter allows for the possibility for a non-commissioner to fill this position. And for the last several years, Amy Jewell, who is an employee of Chittenden Solid Waste District, has more than capably filled this position. And we have that opportunity, if we so choose, to, if she wishes to continue, we could nominate her. But first, I want to open it up to the floor to see if there are any self-nominations or regular nominations of another commissioner for the position of secretary. I am hearing none. I would like to just ask if Amy is willing to continue to serve in the position as secretary.
Amy is not in attendance at the meeting and
Yes.
she was not nominated. I think it was just an oversight. So we can elect that position at a later meeting.
Okay, let us then defer that to a later meeting. We'll move then on to the position of treasurer. We have one self-nomination, that is Paul Stabler from South Burlington. Paul served as the treasurer for the previous year. And Paul, for newer members, also was the chair of the Board of Commissioners for many years, time immemorial, going way back when. Are there any other nominations for the position of treasurer of the Board of Commissioners?
Will we close nominations, Essex?
Second, Burlington.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to close nominations. All those in favor of closing the nominations for the position of treasurer, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Kelton Wilson.
I declare nominations closed. We'll now vote on the position of treasurer. We have one nominee, that is Paul Stabler from South Burlington. All those in favor of electing Paul Stabler as treasurer for the coming year, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Thank you. Any opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Any abstentions?
One abstention, South Burlington.
Thank you. I declare that the treasurer has been elected and that person is Paul Stabler from South Burlington. Thank you very much. This concludes this portion of our elections. The next round of elections is for the executive board, and as was identified in the packet, the executive board consists of 5 members. The chair is automatically a member. We vote or we elect 4 additional members, 4 additional commissioners. And I believe you have to be a full commissioner in order to be on the executive board. Current self-nominations or other nominations with the nominee accepting that nomination are Lee Perry from Burlington, who has previously served on the executive board, Ken Spencer from Charlotte, Alan Nye from the town of Essex, Paul Stabler from South Burlington. Are there any additional nominations or self-nominations for the executive board for the coming year? I am hearing none. Entertain a motion then to close nominations.
So moved, Heinsberg.
Second, Jericho.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to close nominations. We're voting only on the closure of the nominations, not on the actual election for these executive board members. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Nominations are now closed. And as I believe now in the meeting packet, as Sarah explained, we do not have a contested election. There is no need then for us to go into a breakout room to vote on these. We can vote as a slate of the nominees. Is that correct, Sarah?
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion then to vote on these 4 nominees for the position of executive board?
So moved, Jericho.
Second, Shelburne.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to elect or to vote for the following people for the position of for representation on the executive board, that being Lee Perry, Ken Spencer, Alan Nye, and Paul Stabler. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Thank you. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Please don't abstain. We need all the votes here, all the weighted votes. I declare that Lee Perry, Ken Spencer, Alan Nye, and Paul Stabler have all been elected to the executive board for the coming year. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve on the executive board. We are now down to item 4C, granting of authority. I'm going to turn this over to you, Sarah, at this point.
Thank you. And I was actually just looking for the language, which I don't think I have full language, but we can work off of the former motions in last year's minutes. So you would see those in the minutes from the annual organizational meeting from June 28th, 2023. So we have a series of authorities that the board needs to continue to grant and re-grant each year. So I can explain those, and then you can take them one by one. So the first granting of authority would be to authorize the executive board to approve expenditures up to $100,000. We would need a motion and a second.
So moved, Essex.
Second, Charlotte.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to set the granting authority for the executive board at $100,000. That's correct, Sarah?
Correct.
Correct. And just by way of information, we have various levels of authority for expenditures. The executive director has the authority of up to $50,000 for expenditures of between $50,000 and $100,000, ignoring the $1 rounding level here, but between $50,000 and $100,000, the executive board can authorize that expenditure. Any expenditure over $100,000 needs to go before the full board. That's just by way of explanation. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of granting the authority to the executive board, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Kelton Wilson.
Thank you, Colton. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries and the purchasing authority is granted. Next item is setting the meeting schedule for the board and executive board. Again, Sarah, do you have that?
I do, but Paul, we should also authorize the executive director to expend up to $50,000. That needs a separate
Motion. Thank you. I've already explained why we, or past practice of doing this, so hopefully we understand it. We'll entertain a motion.
Second, South Burlington.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to grant the executive director purchasing authority of up to $50,000. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Thank you. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? That authority is also granted. Now we'll move on to item 4D.
We believe we neglected to include the meeting schedule in the packet. Unless you all are seeing it, I am not seeing it in my copy of the packet. So I would propose that we move that to the next full board meeting. Set the meeting schedule.
That's fine. Make a note of it. Again, from informational purposes for the incoming members, we generally meet as a full board on the 4th Wednesday of every month. The executive board generally meets on the 3rd Monday of every month. So in the next month's meeting packet, you'll see that schedule with the exact dates on there, but that's just helpful to keep in mind. We'll move on to item 4E, setting the interest rate for late payments.
So this one is only related to member town assessments. So we haven't had a member town assessment in 30-ish years. But it's something that we do have to authorize each year. So the motion would be to set the interest rate for late payment at 1% per month, 12% per annum for member towns if assessments are established.
So move South Burlington.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to set the interest rate for late payment from the towns in the event that there would ever be an assessment to the towns to cover the expenses of the district. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries and the interest rate is set. Next item is 4F, continuation of the fidelity bond for officers.
This is a motion to continue the fidelity bond of $500,000 per incident for commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District, finance manager, and the executive director.
So move South Burlington.
Seconded, Essex.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. This is just standard protection for the officers, and I think officers would appreciate having this this bond to back them up in the event that there were an action against us that involved money or damages. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Thank you. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? The motion carries. Item 4G, approval of check signing privileges.
This is a motion to authorize the Chair of the Board of Commissioners, the Executive Director, the Director of Administration, and the Treasurer to sign checks and electronic transfers throughout the upcoming year. And further, any check or electronic transfer greater than $25,000 shall need 2 signatures.
So moved, Essex.
Second, Charlotte.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded for the approval of check signing privileges as described, detailed in the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Kelton Wilson.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries and check signing privileges are approved for the coming year. Next item on the agenda is the conflict of interest policy. My intent is not to go through this tonight. I think it's fairly clear, but this was established several years ago, and it's just a good time of reminder at the organizational meeting to remind continuing commissioners and new commissioners that we do have this policy. And I strongly urge you to read it and take it very much to heart and understand the do's and don'ts of your responsibilities as commissioners as it regards conflicts or potential conflicts and the disclosure of them. We do want to maintain the public trust in what we do, in all our deliberations, all our actions, and all our decisions. And we do come from a wide range of backgrounds, experiences, and contacts. And it's really important for us to pay attention to the potential pitfalls of a conflict of interest. So unless there is a request to dive into an item on the conflict of interest policy, I would leave it to the commissioners again to study that. I had also prepared at this point just some reminders and guidelines. I don't know, Sarah, if you had prepared a little PowerPoint that I could just walk through very briefly with some general advice and guidance for commissioners.
Yep. John is going to pull up the slide. I just made one slide for you as an outline. Yep.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to walk through this. I haven't seen this this particular PowerPoint deck, but do we have verbiage following this, or just these bullet points, Sarah? I can expand on them.
If the bullet points, and you would send me a Word document, you had additional explanation around that, so I thought that you would just speak from...
I would speak from this. So very good. Follow proper decorum at all meetings. We do follow Robert's Rules of Order. And I would remind you, please, that we strive to maintain proper decorum. Before speaking, I ask that you wait for the chair to recognize you by either raising your hand physically. If you're in the meeting room, if you're on Zoom, you can raise it physically, but there's also a raise hand function, which is very helpful. And I ask that you wait to be recognized if at all possible before speaking. Also ask that you avoid asking multiple follow-up questions. Generally, I allow a follow-up question or two. If a question isn't answered clearly, or if there's a little bit more information that would be beneficial to the questioner and to all commissioners. But I do want to avoid having a long discussion led by one commissioner. Certainly give you an opportunity to come back, but I do like to give all commissioners a chance to weigh in with their questions, whether it's on the topic being discussed or something new. So again, I ask you to avoid multiple follow-up questions until others have had a chance to speak. Reminder, when we have matters of disagreement, please address your comments to the chair. And it's important to criticize the issue that's being discussed and not the person. This really can, conflict and disagreement certainly can arise. And in cases of disagreement, it's good to hear different points of view. But we want to avoid getting into any instances where people might take a comment personally. That's not the point. We're here to address issues and principles and topics. So again, please always steer your comments to the issue. And then the last thing I would remind you of, if you have a concern about a performance of a staff member, that is something that should be brought up in private to the executive director and not in public. We have a lot of respect for our staff and personnel, and a public open meeting that is recorded is really not the appropriate place to be asking questions about staff. Root them through Sarah, and I know from past experience, she will get right on top of it and address your concerns, get back to you. Reminder that full board meetings are public and recorded, as we are now. Sometimes I know I forget about them, so it's just keep in mind that we're here to serve the public. We don't normally have members of the public at our meetings, but they are accessible, the recordings, and they certainly are viewed later on. So please, again, keep that in mind. We've already addressed the conflict of interest policy and the importance of disclosing any potential conflict of interest, and the importance of recusing yourself when there is a conflict of interest. And also, I'd point out that if you have any ownership stake in a company with which we do business, that would be definitely a conflict of interest, and you should recuse yourself. And in my notes, I said whether it's a direct ownership or potentially an indirect ownership. And by indirect, an example that I might have is there are mutual funds and exchange traded funds out there that I believe trade, or they're comprised solely of industries in the solid waste industry. I would think that might, if you owned a mutual fund with ownership stake, or that was focused on the solid waste industry, that could very well be a conflict of interest where your vote might be construed as being in your own self-interest to help the value of a mutual fund that you own, as opposed to the interests of CSWD and the community we serve. Be familiar with the open meeting law. Stressed that in the past, and perhaps we'll have another presentation, but we have the obligation to warn all meetings. They're held in public. We have a weighted vote structure for the Board of Commissioners. So if a couple of commissioners get together and have an email chat, or met for coffee somewhere, or met on the street at a public event, that could reasonably be construed or become a public meeting that was not properly warned. The public wouldn't have had a chance to know about it and participate in it, and that would get us into trouble. So we ask that certainly on emails, you don't reply to all on something. You reply to the executive director and include the chair for the chair's benefit and information. Just again, please be really careful about running afoul of the open meeting law. And the last thing is route all questions for CSWD staff through the executive director. There might be a housekeeping question that would probably be okay. Oh, Amy Jewell, when is the next board meeting? Or I didn't get the link for that meeting. That might be okay. But anything else, Sarah really needs to know what's on our minds and be able to manage staff time appropriately. So please route your questions through Sarah. That's I think that really runs through the reminders that I wanted to bring before the board tonight. Any questions on that long monologue I just gave you?
Okay.
I think then we're ready to move on to item 6 on this agenda, which is other business. Is there any other business to bring before the before the Board of Commissioners as part of this organizational meeting? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Seth Burlington.
Second, Heinsberg.
Second of Wilson.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn this organizational meeting of the Chittenden Solid Waste District. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I declare this meeting now adjourned. we are now ready to move on to the regular board meeting of the Chittenden Solid Waste District, which again, we have a quorum present. The meeting was properly warned. The packet has been issued. And again, today is June 26, 2024. It is exactly 6:30 p.m., which is when we thought we would begin this meeting. First item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Any requests to add or change anything on the agenda?
Paul Scott has a request to move other business ahead of the executive session if there is other business to be managed.
Thank you. That's a reasonable request. We have done that in the past. There is, after executive session, there is no action that is anticipated. So I would grant that request to move other business to prior to executive session. Any other requests for changes or additions? Hearing none, then the agenda will be followed with the exception that other business will take place before the executive session. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. Are there any members of the public who have joined this meeting who wish to address us?
There are none.
I will then close the public comment period. We'll move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the June 5th, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting, program update, memos and reports, which begin on page 6 of the packet, a voting sheet from the Vermont Department of Health with population updates appears on page 13, and then our monthly finance report containing warrants, cash investments, and reserve balances as of May 31st, 2024. Any requests to remove something from the consent agenda?
Paul, I would just note that on the voting sheet, if folks could pay attention, that South Burlington has gained a vote due to the increase in population.
So that now, what is the new weighted vote? I think I have it.
They now have 5 votes.
5 votes. It was previously 4.
Correct.
And just for benefit of the newer commissioners, there in our charter, it specifies the population count and how many votes each member town receives. I'd also say in the process for the consent agenda, these are our more or less routine business items that generally are well understood, fairly self-explanatory, and do not really need lengthy discussion at a commissioner meeting unless a commissioner wishes to have something pulled for further discussion. It's really an effort to streamline the process of the meeting and keep ourselves on a reasonable clock and concluding our meetings at a reasonable time. But again, you do have that right, an opportunity to pull something from the consent agenda for additional discussion. But I have not heard that tonight. Therefore, I will declare the consent agenda to be accepted as presented in the packet with the specific notation of the increase in South Burlington's weighted vote. Next item on the agenda is an executive session for the purpose, it will include discussion of personnel. Yes?
We're going to go to other business first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Is there any other business to bring before the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Thomas Maloney has something?
Just a comment for the board to consider that since you haven't adopted your annual schedule for your regular meetings, you may want to consider setting a July meeting at this meeting. Otherwise, the chair would have to call a special meeting of the board.
Thank you. Very good point. And also, even more important, perhaps for the board, is I am scheduled to be on vacation for between July 15th and July 26th, which would encompass a regularly scheduled exec board and full board. So Paul, Bruce and I had discussed holding the next full board meeting on July 10th, which is also a Wednesday, so that we could have another conversation before I go on vacation and then not wait too long in between meetings.
And no executive session now.
Undecided. No executive board,
No executive board.
no executive board,
Board.
possibly executive session, but no executive
Yeah.
board for July.
I would agree. If we were to have an executive session, executive board meeting the week prior, that would be this coming Monday. That's
It's excessive.
I would move the board of the Chittenden Solid Waste District meet on the 10th of July for our July regular meeting.
Second, Winooski.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the next meeting of the full board of the Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District take place on Wednesday, July 10th. Any discussion on the motion?
All at 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. Before we vote on this, if there are any commissioners who have a doubt as to their ability to attend this meeting, it might be a good time right now to make that be known, because if we wind up scheduling the meeting and then find out that we do not have a quorum, we've just kind of tied ourselves in a bit of a knot. Yes, Kelton.
I know I won't be able to make that meeting, but I'll reach out to Kaylin, my alternate, and see if she'll be able to make the meeting. I'll be traveling for work that day, and I'll be traveling during that time on a flight.
Got it. Thank you.
Same
Any
here.
But again, in both instances, we would have hope that that the alternate would be able to represent your towns.
Margie, is that the same for you as well?
Yes, I'm not available, but I'll check with Matt.
Very good.
I might not be able to make it. Rachel, or are you free the 10th?
Yes, I'll be available that day.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm satisfied that the likelihood of us having a quorum is quite high for that meeting. So appreciate this discussion and input. The motion before us then is to have our next regular Board of Commissioners meeting on Wednesday, July 10th at 6 p.m. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We will proceed then with scheduling the next meeting on July 10th. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item 4, executive session for discussion of a matter that potentially involves personnel. Do we have language that could be read into the record, please, for a motion?
Yes. I move that the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District go into executive session to discuss personnel issues where premature general public knowledge would clearly place the district, its member municipalities, and other public bodies or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage, and to permit the executive director to be present.
Don't move, Jericho.
Second, Winooski.
Second, Wilson.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We will now move into executive session. We're going to use the link that Sarah sent out, I believe it was this afternoon.
Well, Paul, we don't have any members of the public, and I consulted with Thomas, and he feels that we can close the camera and close the recording, and we can remain in this meeting for executive session.
Very good. Can we confirm that the recording has been turned off?
Recording stopped.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.